Hey everyone, welcome back to another recap podcast from SNXweave, where we give quick weekly recaps of news and important updates from the previous week from the Spartan Council and core contributors, as well as discuss what the Grants Council and ambassadors are up to. That's a wrap for the first week of the new epic. Our new councils have been getting situated and are now rocking and rolling. So let's talk about what happened this past week. SIPs 198 and 222 are both done with their audits. As a reminder, these SIPs will update the atomic exchange functionality and the exchange fee system respectively. The council's hoping for a mainnet release this week. For SIPs 198, Caleb said the plan is to add Euro, BTC, ETH, USD, and eventually the Swiss franc, Japanese yen, and British pound. Kane said he sees atomic exchanges as just another form of exchange that Synthetix offers, meaning it would probably require a SIP for each additional asset. He added, however, that it would make sense to shift the requirement to SCCPs as these instruments continue to get added in order to reduce the burden on governance. SIP 211 for the asset listing methodology will therefore be expanded to include which instrument changes can be made via SCCPs versus SIPs. The liquidation mechanism upgrade was originally supposed to go out before SIPs 198 and 222, but the audit came back with some feedback and adjustments that needed to be made. The auditor pointed out that some functions needed updating and the liquidator reward wasn't quite right. It was vesting like staking rewards, so the time component had to be removed. The auditor, however, is currently backed up and will likely not be able to review the changes until later in the month. As for SIP 203, for a volume source fee, there was a bit of discussion as to whether the fee should be additive or subtractive. Consensus was reached to make it additive. Daniel asked why Synthetix would need to be involved at all if the fee was additive. Kane explained that partners who choose to use the volume source fee mechanism would be able to use a Synthetix fee contract as opposed to writing their own, which might expose users to additional risk. He added, another reason we decided to make it additive was because now there are two competition points, UX and fees, versus subtractive fee where protocols would only be competing on UX. Fees can therefore be set by each protocol at the contract level. Now that the council is in place, the SIP will be presented again with all of the new updates. The council also discussed synth teleporters and SUSD fungibility. Kane reviewed all of the challenges with the new council, including recent bridge hacks, Chainlink's CCIP release, moving teleporters to the V3 scope, etc. Calvera asked if the SIP is currently paused, to which Caleb replied that there will be a new SIP that allows users to move assets across networks. He added, however, that this won't be as fast as we expected teleporters to be. L2 to L1 transfers will still come with a 7-day delay. For the issue of deprecating L1 staking, the current plan is to raise the liquidation threshold and C ratio over time. Daniel, however, thinks they need to see some more data on this before making a final decision. Caleb brought up that he wrote an SCCP to disable new REN BTC loans since there are currently no caps, which presents a risk to the protocol. The general agreement was that they should be disabled, and it was put to a vote, with all 8 council members voting in favor of disabling new loans against REN BTC. This SCCP has been implemented. FIF also presented a high-level overview of the V3 scope to the council during their meeting. He said the idea is to take the blended debt pool architecture that we have now and replace it with a more permissionless one, with the existing debt pool architecture added on top. In this model, every asset will be in its own pool. With V3GM, governance will still decide what synths will be supported by SNX stakers, but the big difference is that anyone will be able to add a synth as long as they have an oracle. They will just need to start a debt pool, and people can decide whether they want to provide liquidity to those pools or not. FIF said that this lets us separate the exposure while maintaining the benefits of the blended debt pool model that we have today through governance. He added that V3 should be picking up momentum now that there have been more development resources allocated. KSET asked if this means shorting will be separated by asset. FIF confirmed this, saying all of the collateral contracts in V3 will be redone. He said we want to have the flexibility of permissionless markets to allow people to design whatever they want, while also retaining the power and coordination to be able to bootstrap new markets. Lastly, Caleb had a few questions for Afif. First, he wanted to know how liquidations work in this model. Afif said SNX liquidations will continue to be socialized. Exposure to markets that liquidated users are in will be dialed back. For non-SNX collateral, they're leaning towards suggesting those be normal liquidations versus socialized. Caleb also wanted to know if governance sets the C ratio for these segregated pools. In the current plan, collaterals will have to be whitelisted and set by governance. The big difference is that pool creation will be permissionless. Users will be able to delegate their stake to the council pool in standard mode, and more advanced users will be able to delegate to whatever pool they want. For his last question, Caleb asked if users would be able to dial in their exposure to specific instruments, futures for example. The short answer is yes. What's interesting about the fund model is that you can have a fund that is either all crypto or all non-crypto futures markets to simplify the UX even more. Moving on to Grants Council updates, the new council is asked to list their ongoing and upcoming initiatives and estimate the cost for each so that a budget can be submitted to the Treasury Council. The Grants Council actually ended last Epic under budget, so hats off to them. The council is currently brainstorming a few new initiatives. The first one is a Discord bot to report synthetics bugs. Then they discussed the possibility of making tutorial videos. The team hopes to get the 300 involved in these, and specifically on the futures content, there will need to be some coordination with Quenta. Mike suggested a futures powered by synthetics explainer video, then a follow-up for any front ends. The council also discussed possible learn and earn incentives for this project, and Mike will be writing an outline for this initiative. Next, the design for the hero stats page is ready. The team is just working on where to get the data from. It was initially expected that the stats page would have to use subgraphs, but RPC queries might provide the most reliable data. Cyberduck has also been in communication with a dev from Quenta who's willing to build the front end for the hero stats page, which can likely begin before the data source is made final. Lastly, Mike brought up the possibility of adding a lieutenant role to the 300 group. He said there's a need for people to lead more specific tasks or objectives for the 300, such as marketing, competition organization, etc. He added that extra leadership is necessary, especially for the times when he or Matt are unable to step in. CT suggested making this a performance-based incentive in order to increase accountability. The team also discussed the possibility of nominating members who ran for council positions but were not elected for the lieutenant role, in order to allow them to continue supporting the community in an impactful way. The Grants Council will likely fund this role on a trial basis, with the possibility that it eventually becomes a role that is funded by the Treasury Council. In Ambassador Council updates, Millie has drafted a SIP to update the Ambassador mandate and will be presenting it to the Spartan Council today. The SIP aims to create a more structured approach to the Ambassador Council role based on a number of key performance indicators. Initially, the purpose of the ambassadors was to rally support from the community for external governance proposals and encourage or seek delegation of governance tokens. This SIP, however, proposes that the following KPIs be used to track the ambassador's success in the future: total voting power delegations, number of social events coordinated, sum of protocol integrations, grants referrals, or any other referrals attributed to the ambassadors, approved SIPs written by the Ambassador Council, onboarding of core contributor positions, and use of the Synthetics Councils and Core Contributors Coordinate Circle as an indicator for non-public contributions and productive Discord engagement. The ambassadors are also hard at work planning their upcoming Spartan City Halls. With the start of the new Epic, the team wants to bring back City Halls immediately and refine the process for getting them scheduled. The next one is scheduled for this Thursday, so be sure to tune in to hear a discussion with the engineers from UMA Protocol and Thales. The Ambassador Council is very committed to building relationships with as many projects as possible through these Spartan City Halls, and they already have a long list of possible guests to accomplish this. And that's it for today's updates. Be sure to check out our weekly recap blog post, share this podcast link, and let us know what you think and what you'd like to hear more about from SNXweave. Thanks for listening.